Alright, we should be live. We're back. We're working on Vivi. Here he is in case you need a reminder of how he works, because I don't play any constructed formats. I don't know. I don't know if he's doing anything in, like, older formats or the eternal formats or whatever, but he's definitely doing stuff in standard, and he's absolutely ridiculous. And we're going to build our own version of him for Commander, because I've been running him in Brawl this whole time. So 145 cards, so we need 85 cuts and he'll be all set. But Saber, you've been running him in Brawl. Surely you know what you want in here. It's like, yeah, but I also have access to, you know, thousands upon thousands of cards that Brawl doesn't have. Also, we're trying to build him for Commander, which is a slightly different beast in the always, almost always going to be more opponents, because you usually don't just play heads up Commander unless, you don't have a huge showing at your local game store for Commander. And also, everybody has 40 life, which is a lot harder for Vivi to deal all by himself, but we're going to try. Alright, let's see if anything else worth cutting now that we're looking at it with fresh eyes. Mana Drain, Tabernacle, Belwar Stone, Brainstorm, Merchant Scroll. It could legit be some of the tutors. Like, they're much better than nothing, but there are times where Vivi just does not have the mana to play the tutor, and the card that he's tutoring for, or the cheaper tutor and the card draw spell and the card that he tutored for the ones that put him on top. All of that being said, it's a lot better than, drawing another land or an interactive spell that's not going to help Vivi win this turn. Right now, they probably all stay. Maybe when I'm down to like 70 or 80 cards, we can decide if some of the tutors just aren't worth it. Like, I can see personal tutor going, but some of the things in here are incredibly powerful sorceries that will just win the game if I can go grab them. So we get to like the mid to late game. Physics Mastery immediately leaps to mind. Pretty sure the Red Finale is a sorcery. I forget if Mnemonic Deluge is a sorcery, but Time Stretch is a sorcery. Expropriate's a sorcery. So yeah, we got a ton of potentially game-winning sorceries to go tutor for. So could still be foil. Could be Rhystic Study, but I think this time Rhystic Study has a very real chance of making it all the way through. Could legitimately be Mind's Desire. I do cast a lot of spells sometimes, but sometimes I don't. And you know what? There are times when I legitimately don't cast a whole bunch of spells or don't have any mana left over after casting, like 2 to 3 spells. Just because. Either because I need to leave up mana to protect Vivi, or because I didn't have anything to protect him with anyway, so I might as well go all in and try and find stuff. Especially with all the free counter spells in this deck, so. And then I just don't get to cast Mind's Desire if I find it for, a significant number. So yes, while it might be cool to chain like like 2 or 3 cantrips together and then Mind's Desire for 4 or 5, but I think that's going to happen a lot less often than just drawing Mind's Desire and going, maybe I can do it for 2. And if I have like Vivi on infinite counters and can actually cast a bunch of expensive spells in Mind's Desire, then I probably win that game with any of the other similar cast a spell a bunch of times things, Mastery or Monic or something. Say stop. Still considering Tenza. If Tenza did not give trample, it would be very easy to cut it out of the deck. The fact that I can, play it ahead of time, equip it to Vivi for 1 to give him +3/+3 immediately for extra mana, and then he gains trample on top of that. Because a lot of the time, Vivi's biggest problem is that he has no evasion at all. So he's giant, but a couple of little creatures will hold him off long enough. Even if they don't have, like, repeatable token makers or something. So I just want to make sure Vivi can actually get through for damage and finish the game off. And Tenza, like, obviously Embercleave is the best one for that. Double Strike Trample just lets Vivi get through for infinite damage most of the time and stops, like, random Death Touchers and whatnot from stopping him, but it is only one card and I need something else. I could see cutting Ophidian Eye because it's 3 times as expensive as Curiosity, which makes it a little harder to land on Vivi while still doing stuff in the same turn to draw cards. But getting Curiosity on Vivi is so powerful, it's probably worth it to have a worse Curiosity. I could lose Mindbreak Trap because it's more reactive than proactive, like some of the other counter spells that are free, where I can use them to protect Vivi or to counter spell when it looks like I can't, or as like stopping combo decks and whatnot. But Mindbreak Trap is really good against the type of decks I expect to see more often, with how strong Vivi actually is. I wonder if I lose Chain Lightning for, like, just have Flame Slash. So it's like Lightning Bolt, Flame Slash, Flames of Anor instead of Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning can go face and can kill Planeswalkers. Flame Slash is more efficient at killing creatures, and there's a lot more, like, random 4 toughness creatures running around in Commander. Like, opening it up to killing a 4 toughness creature lets it hit a lot of, like, mid-sized commanders and, like, the higher power and toughness utility creatures, in addition to all the things that could normally kill that Chain Lightning could, but then I lose out on the Planeswalkers and and being able to go face. But I also don't run the risk of the opponent having 2 red mana and then I have to worry that they're going to kill Vivi or something. Although they can't kill Vivi by itself, because I cast Chain Lightning, so Vivi has a counter on him. Unfortunately, bouncing it back is part of the resolution of the spell and not casting another copy of Chain Lightning. At least not as far as I remember, unless they change that. Yeah, you copy it on the stack and choose new copies for the, or choose new targets for the copy, so. Okay, that's what I thought. It was something along those lines. Sopal, Twisted Image, Gataxian Probe's good, Gambit's good, Torpor Orb's good. Sonic Rift. Yeah, Enter the Infinite's funny, but at 12 mana, like, Vivi is not casting this off of his mana most of the time. If Vivi can make 12 mana, I should have won the game at that point, because that means he's dealt 12 damage by himself, plus everything else, and nobody has stopped him yet. So I can't imagine casting Enter the Infinite just off of Vivi mana with any kind of consistency. And even if I can, then I need the other mana left over to be able to cast, the spells that I picked up that will let me win the game at that point, rather than having to pass the turn with my entire deck in my hand minus one card. Like, yeah, I have Omniscience on the list, but Omniscience still works with Vivi just because I get to start casting all the spells out of my hand and chaining cantrips and card draw spells and whatnot together, potentially in time walks, in order to just find what I need. Plus, I think I have enough, 8+ mana, put the game very far out of reach cards anyway, so I don't need yet another one that's a lot clunkier than the others. Overall, this allows good. Dive Down might be able to go. We were talking about this the other day. Flood of Recollection. Do I need Flood? I have the Mystic Isle or whatever. Mystic. I was about to say Gateway, but I'm pretty sure that's the one from Shadowmoor. The one from Throne of Eldraine. If I can get a spell back. If I have enough islands. It does go back on top instead of to hand, and I do need enough islands in play for it to come into play untapped for that, but by the same token, I don't necessarily need the Flood. Yeah, I can see cutting Flood. Amber, Invert and Vent, Insight. Just plan. That's true. I also have Bond of Insight, which I could also see cutting. Maybe not just yet. Underworld Breach. Yeah, I don't need Flood. I could still cut Lord Drakus. It's fine as a variant on Blood of Recollection. That I can also only use once most of the time, and gives Vivi 2 power instead of 1 for casting it. Honestly, I probably don't need it, though. I have to believe that Underworld Breach and Bond of Insight and the Mystic Sanctuary, maybe? Might be Sanctuary. And, my top end cards like Deluge and, not Apex, Hour of Promise or whatever, whichever the red one is. Not Hour, Finale. Finale of Devastation? Is that the red one? Whichever one it is, we have them, so. Beck should have passed it already. I know, it is Finale of Promise. Okay. So yeah, we have ways to get back the spells. That's fine. I can also see losing Alrund's Epiphany. It's more expensive than the other ones most of the time. In fact, even when it's foretold, it's one more than the other taking extra turn cards. And the 2 birds are nice, but I think we need it. If anything, I would rather have Nexus of Fate. We can figure out if I want to add that in later and take out something else. Ration could conceivably go. Breaker, Jin, March of Swirling Mist. Or you can't refuse. Arcane Bombardment can probably go. I keep seeing him like part of me wants to just get rid of it, and then there's part of me that's like, if it sticks though, it starts to get out of hand. You don't have to cast the spells, and so if you hit a counter spell, you don't have to counter your own thing. But if you hit multiple counter spells, you can do the thing where you counter your own spell, but then counter the counter spell, and since you're casting all of them, Vivi's getting counters and triggering. But I don't know how important that is. Obviously, if you can get like a time walk or something underneath it, then it just ends the game. Like every time you cast something, you get a time walk, so it's really hard not to take an extra turn with how Vivi's built. Like eventually, maybe he'll run out of instants and sorceries to cast to trigger the thing, but and all of this is, of course, assuming that none of the opponents can interact with it. Now, granted, you know, you can't always have it all the time, but as far as being the opponent of the player that's doing this, but you have to imagine that more often than not, you're not going to be able to pull this one off quite so effectively. And it's got a huge target painted on it just because every time you cast a spell, you're going to get another spell, and then, later on, 2 or 3 more spells each time as more and more of them get exiled. And that's just going to make Vivi completely out of hand. But it's also a clunky do nothing the first time you cast it. Like the first turn that you cast it most of the time. You need to follow it up with a spell, and also you need to be able to protect Vivi still, because otherwise half the benefit of this thing is going to go away if Vivi wanders off on you. I think it stays for right now, but it'll be one of the cards where we're down to like 80 cards and it'll go. I can see one with the multiverse going. Like, both aspects of it are incredibly useful, but I'd rather have Future Sight or Omniscience than this thing. Until it's in play, I would rather have Future Sight over it, just because Future Sight's easier to cast at 3 mana less, and Omniscience is all of my spells instead of one of them, so like, it's a really strong card, but I don't think I actually need it. So, pass there. Ring is fine. Monstrous Rage. Could be Papatic. Like, I don't need it. Like, I think Axonal is really strong for Vivi, just dealing all that extra damage potentially. And it shouldn't be too hard to flip Axonal back over, so he has to be exiled to get rid of him. But I don't know about Pokpatik necessarily. Obviously, it's incredibly strong if it's in play, and I start casting instants, and then those instants happen again on my next turn, and Vivi's just loading up on counters, and I'm getting all the card draw and everything. Uh, it is only instants, so all of my other non-creature spells, including my sorceries, aren't doing anything, so... I think it stays for a little while, but ultimately I'm not sure. I think I'm going to ditch the Relics Roar as far as ways to pump Vivi. I don't think I need both it and Behind the Mask and Zalfrin Shapecraft and all of the red pump spells that I'm running. We can afford to get rid of that. Memory I want to keep. And the heist. His talent's fine for right now. Stock up. Regent stays. Ugin stays for right now. It could be Ugin, but I do like having another big, splashy, repeatable removal spell, since we're going to be playing Commander, and I kind of need more ways to deal with stuff I did in Brawl, so. Also, games are going to go a bit longer getting to Ugin mana. Going to happen a lot more consistently. Whisper's good. Theologian's good. Probably keep Vivi. I probably keep Swiftfoot Boots. Don't run it in Brawl, but, you know, not having to have multiple ways to protect Vivi. I just need, like, the one to make sure this lands on him type of deal. Pretty alright. Yeah, in Brawl I don't bother because it's a little clunkier, but Commander with multiple opponents, having one card that can shut off multiple targeted removal spells if they're not available right that second becomes a lot more important. Could be Spell Twine. It's really strong, but it's a bit more. It's a slightly more expensive and slightly stronger unoverloaded Mizzix Mastery, in that I get 2 spells out of it for 6 mana instead of 1 spell out of it for 4 mana. But it still doesn't have the upside of being able to throw in like 4 more mana and cast everything, so the fact that it's limited to 2 spells for slightly more mana, and that it's not both from my graveyard, honestly, because we can't count on opponents having things that are going to be relevant. So a lot of the time it's going to be more of an unkicked Mizzix Mastery and casting like some mediocre spell from the opponent's graveyard while we're at it. So I could see it going. It is 2 spells cast though, almost every single time for 6 mana. 3 spells, sorry. It's 3 spells cast for 6 mana because the spell Twine itself is cast. Talisman stays, Prodigy stays for now, Ragavan's fine. I could cut Ragavan because he's almost entirely for the first couple turns of the game, and then drops off pretty hard if there isn't somebody who's vulnerable to him, but it only takes one player being vulnerable to him for him to do his thing, so. Yeah, Vivi doesn't super need haste, so Champion's Helm is just probably a better Swiftfoot Boots for Vivi, because it actually gives him power and toughness when it equips. It still gives him hexproof, so same mana investment to attach it anyway. 1 more mana to cast, so. I wonder if I'm going to wind up cutting Quantum Misalignment for the same reason I cut the 2 Sakashimas and the Branicus's duplication. It is 5 mana, and it does have to resolve, whereas Duplimancy, just anything targeting VV gives me another VV. You know what? I can actually see cutting Quantum Misalignment for the same reason I cut the other ones. It's nice that it has Rebound, so if it sticks, it's going to be even better than the other ones, but that's the only thing it really has going for it. Right. Copy the Radstorm. I wonder if we'd cut the Rad Storm. As Storm and Proliferate, and everything I said about um, Mind's Desire is kind of true of this one also. And if it's just Vivi getting the counters, like, yeah, it's nice that he gets, like, 3 extra counters from casting this thing for the 2 spells before it plus that, but it's not essential. I think it falls into the category of it's cute, but it's not actually anything we need. Alright, so that was 9 cuts. Down to 136. Those. Alright. What are we gonna get rid of next? Maybe Archmage of the Runes. Getting to draw a card off of each instant and sorcery, though, is kind of strong. Especially if he's going to discount those spells on top of that. Making it just a little bit more likely we can do the thing. Hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at Vivi's mana rocks, and I'm trying to decide if we can get rid of any of them. I'm debating Chrome Mox, because Vivi actually needs his spells. Like, if I'm a little flooded, Mox Diamond isn't that bad as a way to get a turn ahead on land and not giving up anything particularly useful. That way maybe I can get Vivi down a little sooner or cast an extra spell that turn. Not worry about not having the land next turn. But I really do need all of my spells for Vivi a lot of the time. Like, there's not any one that's like so redundant. Like, the redundant cards are like card draw spells, counter spells, and ways to protect Vivi. So yeah, Chrome Mox might be a little underwhelming. No, not the Chromatic Cube. Alright, so get rid of that one. Down to 135. Hear that. Yeah, Amber and Opal don't actually use up any of my other resources, so even if they're not functional at the time, well, Amber always will be, but if Mox Opal is short an artifact or two, it's still a counter for Vivi. So it's that at least, so it can always let him ramp, even if it can't ramp itself. And then eventually we will get the third artifact down and it'll function properly. And like I said, Diamond, if I'm discarding a land, at least I'll know if I desperately need the lands or not, more so than I needed a ramp. And I can always run out Mox Diamond to get a counter on Vivi and have it go away. But that's true of the Chrome Mox also, but I'm way more likely to have to do something like that because I can't afford to lose cards out of hand. Like, well, what are my options for things I can lose out of my hand right now for this Chrome Mox? Card draw spells? Nope, need them. Counter spells? Probably need those. It's like, okay, that's like most of the deck that has a color. Like, I can't exile one of my other ramping artifacts to it. Yeah, maybe if I could do that, like if I could exile Mind Stone and have it tap for colorless as a 0-drop artifact, that would be alright, but I don't think I actually need Chrome Mox here. Alright, none of the other ramp seems particularly cuttable right now. Archmage, Future Sight. Okay. Making sure the gap between the two of them wasn't, like, unnecessarily large. Traverse Eternity, Arcane Epiphany, Meringue River Regent, Plan the Heist, One Ring, Memory Deluge, Deep Analysis, Concentrate, and Factor Fiction. Yeah, no, I love all of those. We might still have to cut one or two of them just because I don't have room for everything, but... Slash. Now that I've noticed it, it's bothering me. Could be expressive iterations still. That is one of the ones where I don't run it in Brawl VV. I could see cutting it from here. Yeah, I keep thinking about cutting it. I think I'm going to. Alright, over 10 cuts, so even if I don't successfully make any more, I'll feel like I accomplished the minimum. Yeah, when I go an hour and don't even get 10 cuts off of the list, especially with such a large list and so many cuts to make, I start to feel like, yeah, I'm not doing well here with the deck build. Like, I'm struggling with the deck build at that point. Yeah, I can see Spell Twine going too, for all the reasons I outlined before. Hmm. I'm trying to decide if I want to cut one of these 4-drop, draw functionally 3 cards or thereabouts. Currently, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, almost a tenth of the deck is just spells that can let me draw 3-ish cards for 4 mana. While that's neat, um, it's not exactly reasonable for the deck to think that it can hold all of these at once. I'm not sure which one it would be though. Guess it would be Traverse because sometimes Traverse will let me draw like a ton of cards, like if I have out in or something, or I don't even think I have like most of the expensive artifacts anymore. So it's like um, Immortal Sun and not much else as far as drawing more than 3 cards. Yeah, right. If I'm gonna cut one of them, I think it's Traverse. All right, so that's eliminated all of the Fallout cards and all of the Fallout card and all of the Doctor Who cards to potentially make it into the deck. I don't think there was anything from Warhammer to begin with, so take that. Universes Beyond Commander only products. Yeah, so much of this deck is dedicated to card draw that I'm gonna wind up having to lose a handful more of the cards down there just because I don't have room for everything. I'm wondering if Wrecking Ball Arm doesn't go. Like, yes, 2 mana make Vivi a 7/7 is absurd. That's really good to begin with, but it's probably the least impressive of the equipment. Like, yes, it gives him the biggest power and toughness boost, which is the thing that's keeping it on the list at all. But giving him hexproof, shutting off opponents' ability to cast spells on my turn, um, and just making him larger with trample are all probably better than making him a 7/7 for 2 mana. Now, granted, sometimes I'm going to spend the 2 mana to net gain 5, and that's going to be amazing, which is why it's still on the list and why I'm not ready to cut it just yet, but I'm trying to talk myself into it. This is another one of those cards that I think is kind of in the category of, yeah, that's really cool with Vivi, and it definitely works with what he's trying to do, but I need room for other stuff, and the other stuff is better. Yeah, honestly, I think that's where I'm at with Wrecking Ball Arm, is that I have other cards that are trying to do similar things, and they're just either more mana efficient initially, or, like if I had to spend 2 and 2 to equip VV in order to net gain the 3 mana, I've got other things that are basically doing that for less mana. I'm sorry, it's not net gaining 3, it's net gaining 4 because he would get the counter in that scenario because I've cast it, but still. I think we can cut it. I think it's good. I think it fits what Vivi's trying to do, and I also think we have better options. Keeping those for right now. Probably still keeping Fiery Emancipation, although I could see cutting it. Have like Axonal and the Artist Talent to increase my damage output potential. Keeping those. Am I going to cut Personal Tutor? I'm still very seriously considering it. Out of all of the tutor variants, I think it might be the worst. Either it or Solve the Equation is the worst, because Solve the Equation is 3 mana in order to go get the spell. So, it puts it directly in your hand, so I don't need a cantrip to like get it into the hand after that. Yeah, we could probably lose Personal Tutor. Like, I have a feeling by the time we're getting close to the end, it's going to have to go anyway, just because the other stuff is going to be better. Alright, brings us down to 130. Get back down lower. Working our way up. I think it helps every once in a while to start at the bottom and work up instead, just so I see the cards in a different order. So my brain process them differently. By the time I'm at the end of the list, I'm kind of rushing towards the end of the list to get rid of all the cards I've already cut. So this way, looking at these cards first, and then rushing by the time I'm like near like Urza's block or something. See Pokpatik going still. Every time I get to it, I keep thinking maybe, maybe get rid of this one. Craft no, augury no. See, shore up, slip out the back. Hey again, arcane bombardment. Eventually, I'm gonna wind up cutting you. I know I am. Most of the do nothing enchantments. Hullbreaker Horror I want to keep. Anger's decent. Not amazing. It's 1 mana for 2 power and trample, but the 1 power sticks around and it is giving trample, which is super helpful. And it's a cantrip, so cantripping rituals. If I could run what's its name? Manamorphose, I absolutely would be, so yeah, cantripping ritual effect definitely makes it. It's gonna stay for now. Undrum's good. Reach is fine. Reset, no. Barn, finale. Still could potentially cut Bond. Burton Vent. Amber staying. Do I need the Immortal Sun? I have a few Planeswalkers, but I don't super care if their activate abilities get shut off. They're all in here partially for their statics. Like their statics are what drew me to putting them in the deck, and then their other stuff is just fine after that. But it's +1/+1. I get to draw an extra card on my turns, and my spells cost one less. Like everything about it is decent, and aside from shutting off the planeswalkers, like super relevant to my deck. But it's also a 6 drop that I don't actually need. Like we've got plenty of other higher, like in this range and slightly higher casting cost spells that are actually going to cast more spells or give me access to more spells, like potentially right away. Whereas this one can only give me the extra card like starting next turn. Yeah, I'm starting to talk myself into I think the Immortal Sun can go. It's fine, but it's not essential. 5 down, disallow, Baral. Alley Shift stays. Stubborn Denial's good for right now. Swan Song. It's possible I lose Stubborn Denial long term because it's not heads up anymore, so being able to catch a player that tapped out is going to be a little bit less likely, I feel like. Because there's more incentive to wait anyway to cast your spells, just to give yourself access to more mana, more information, and everything else before running it out. Whereas in Brawl, it's like I need to try and get this down now while the opponent only has like 1 mana open. It's like, oh nope, it's Stubborn Denial. That's assuming that Vivi's not in play and about to get his fourth counter, has his fourth counter. Matter if they have the leftover mana. Love Torpor Orb. Anytime I can play a deck where I can run Torpor Orb, I'm usually pretty happy about it. Gambit, Cataxian Probe, Twisted Image, Mox Opal. Flash wants to stay, Eel Umbro kind of wants to stay, like it's sometimes better, sometimes worse than Dive Down. Yeah, we already had this discussion where it's in here, like its primary selling point is that it's playing around different cards than some of my other protection cards are, so like it gets around a Wrath as opposed to the hexproof tricks. Ultimately, the best thing to do is phase out Vivi, but it's also good to not phase him out if you don't absolutely have to, so that way he's still in play. Like if the opponent tries to kill him on the upkeep and I have to phase him out, then I'm losing access to all of his mana past the upkeep. So there's that. If I don't have like instant speed card draw or something right there to get in some pings, draw some extra cards, and see what I'm doing for the turn. Of course, we get to use Vivi's mana for the spell that phases him out at least, but still would like to have him in play if I can. Yeah, still keeping these. Repeal might be able to go. It can get pretty mana intensive to repeal most problematic things. Might be better off with just something that can bounce like a full on boomerang effect. Fortunately, I'm pretty sure all the ones that are full on boomerangs are like 4 mana to bounce a thing and draw a card anyway, so. The thing is cheap enough you're getting a bargain with repeal. Signet, Enza, say stop, Stone. Could still be Isochron Scepter. Like, I don't have any combos with it, but just being able to cast an extra spell every turn for 2 mana seems alright. Especially if the spell is, like, anything worth having. Ideally, it would be, if it's not a counter spell, it's going to be something like Experimental Augury. I'm just getting 2 counters on Vivi every time I activate it, and, like, the best card out of the top 3 each time. So for right now, it stays, but I can see it going if I don't have enough. Exactly 2 or less instants in the deck. Which I suppose I could check real quick, see how many I even have to begin with. Get rid of the Immortal Sun. Alright, we're at the 50-minute mark, but real quick. Clear this off. Quick. Instant. Alright, Counterspell and Lightning Bolt work. Mana Drain. Yeah, Brainstorm works, because I'll get to keep seeing the 2 cards I put back plus the next card below that, at the very least, even if I'm Brainstorm locked. So I'm drawing an extra card every turn. Force of Will, no. Mystical Tutor, technically. Reality Ripple works. I mean, yeah, Mystical Tutor works so that way I can guarantee I'm drawing a better spell every turn. So yeah, that seems fine. Whispers makes it 2 mana top draw card, which is fine. Frantic Search doesn't work. None of these. Conceptor itself. Repeal's always going to be X equals 0, so not as good unless I'm bouncing a Mox or something. Twice is fine. Pact of Negation, probably not, but maybe. Mind Break Trap, that doesn't do anything. Twisted Image is fine. Probe's fine. Cyclonic Rift. That just makes it a non-land boomerang effect. Rapid Hybrid, I mean, worst case scenario, I can destroy the attacking lizard token so that they get a different one that's not currently attacking me. Swan Song, probably not. Giving out that many birds will start to become a problem. Disdainful Stroke, Stubborn Denial, both okay, not great. Reality Shift, okay, not great. Disallow, no. Dive Down's fine. Pretty sure I can't even put Invert Invent on it anymore because of the way the split cards work. No. Saw It Coming doesn't work. Consider. Ancestral Anger's decent. March of Swirling Mist would always be for 0. Offers questionable at best. Slip's fine. Shore Up's fine. Augury's probably one of the best ones possible. Shapecraft's really strong. Flames, Monstrous Rage is fine. Monstrous Rage is only giving +2/+0 and the counter at that point, though, because the actual, the aura token's falling off constantly. Behind the Mask is medium. Dreams of Laguna's fine. Deluge. Can't do Guardianship or Deflecting Swat. Reality Ripple's fine. And then we're into the things. Yeah, Isochron seems like medium for the most part. It's got a few, like, really strong hits, and then and some okay hits, and then some mediocre hits. So I think we can afford to cut Isochron Scepter. And that's going to do it for me for right now, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.